live. Some massive delays there. This is becoming a big political issue now. Joining us live in studio, our good friend, political analyst Stephen Lawson. Stephen, Deborah and I have spring break plans. We are freaking the heck out. I do not want to wait 6 hours to get in. What's the tipping point for our congressional leaders to get this thing done?
Well, if the videos and images from yesterday at Hartsfield-Jackson don't move you, then I don't know what will. I mean, I've never seen lines like I did, even in the international turmoil, Mark, where they are now telling people, hey, if you have a domestic flight, do not come to the international terminal.
Go to domestic.
Yeah, because people are missing very important overseas flights because of these lines, and they're turning around. Look, this stalemate has got to end. I think that's very clear. We saw with the previous shutdowns, the pressure really started to come from the airlines.
Yes.
To congressional members basically saying we cannot function like this. This is putting immense pressure on our air traffic controllers, all of these things, and it has a ripple down effect. I think that within the next week, they will get some sort of compromise. You've seen some back and forth between Democrats, Senate Democrats, and the White House on some concessions here. Again, this all goes back to this funding around Homeland Security that the Democrats have held up. But it's very clear, not just from a national security perspective, but from a TSA perspective, they've got to get this done.
Could a possible bridge be built here? Because we've been monitoring the Senate confirmation hearing for Markwayne Mullin to replace Kristi Noem. Aside from Rand Paul throwing shrapnel his way, it seems like he's going to have support. Could Democrats say, hey, listen, we will unanimously vote this dude in if you pull out the DHS funding part of this, or the ICE funding, whatever, is that a doorway, a window for some sort of negotiation where the Democrats like, we won't even, bother questioning him. We'll just give him the stamp of approval if we can get this government reopened?
I think that's too big of a hill for them to die on. I think what they are picking at are smaller concessions. There have been some talk around body cameras for ICE agents.
Yeah.
I think that's a concession. It sounds like the
IDs.
White House. Yeah, some more Inspector General oversight. So I think those are things, bargaining chips that the White House seems to be, on board with. That's where I think that they're going to get some movement on. In terms of getting this done and getting this gridlock done. And we talk about not just the airport security, not just TSA, but we are in a war for all intents and purposes with Iran, right? There are serious national security implications, and I think the pressure is going to continue to build on Democrats to get something done.
Political analyst Stephen Lawson joining us live in studio. I hope, and you mentioned the pressure on the airlines, I believe the CEOs of the big 6 major carriers already wrote a letter jointly to blast our congressional folks and be like, this has to end, and it's getting worse and worse every day. The poor TSA agents, we heard from some that are I don't know if it's here in Atlanta, but some are selling blood to get money to put gas in their car so they can go to work and not get paid.
It's just ridiculous, and I think the average person sitting at home, is wondering, why these bureaucrats and elected official politicians in Washington are bickering over really insignificant things at this point. They're not significant enough to hold up government funding, to hold up TSA over this. And I think, to your point, Mark, I think one of the ideas that's been floated by the airlines is some sort of permanent carve-out for TSA, for Homeland Security, so that even if there are other bickering political sideshows, that funding for these key institutions continues. I think that's really important. I think the president should be all behind that. I think every person in Congress running for re-election should put that on a piece of mail, because I think they'd get a lot more votes.
Because there is, I don't know if it's a carve out or what, but Coast Guard folks are getting paid right now. So whatever mechanism they use to get the Coast Guard paid, just so we don't have to deal with this.
That's right.
Because spring break's coming. Are you going anywhere for spring break? Is that a personal question?
No, it's not. I think I'm going to be here. I'll let my wife and kids decide where they're going to go.
Smart man. Well, yeah, listen, it might not be. You might not want to go on spring break.
Yeah.
I'm not a line waiter, and 6 hours. I mean, I'm so blessed. I don't know what I did to the Venetian Hotel. I haven't been there in 10 years. But they were like 5 free nights and here's money for food, and here's money for gambling. So
Here's the catch: you can't get on your flight.
yeah, exactly right. Maybe Erickson will fly me private
There
out
you
to
go.
Vegas. Midterms coming up. Touchscreen voting. Is it going to still be here for the midterms in Georgia?
Yeah, it is. This has obviously been a hotly contested debate right now in the General Assembly under the Gold Dome. There was some push by some conservative activists to really move towards paper ballots for the midterms. That's not likely going to happen, but there is a plan in place for Georgia to move to paper ballots by the 2028 presidential election. So I think the plan is for the midterms, we're going to continue on the system that we have on the touchscreens, but then phasing out of that after the midterms in anticipation for the presidential election.
I understand the thought process behind it going to paper ballots, but I just speaking for myself now, I don't know what the listeners think, but I've been spoiled with touchscreen voting. Like it's fun. You get the thing, you hit the button. It'd be like, and I want to go back technologically. It'd be like, all right, we're gonna ramp you back up to AOL dial-up internet. Like no one's gonna want to go back to paper ballots after the ease of the touchscreen.
Yeah. So there's actually an interesting new proposal and potential outcome here, which is called ballot on demand. So essentially, you have a blank ballot.
Okay.
You feed it into the machine. You make your selections. It then prints out your selections, and then you feed it into a machine.
Gotcha. So I'm still doing the digital touchscreen.
Yes, but
it prints out
printing you, and you're able to verify that if you
Gotcha.
put that ballot back in the machine, it should check off those marks.
So like a hybrid kind of.
That's right.
All right.
Concurrent to this, we have Georgia is operating under the Dominion machines currently. That contract is set to expire before the 2028 elections. So the state of Georgia will have the opportunity to select potentially a new vendor to operate all of these things.
Stephen, we've been hearing political ads, as expected, on WSB Radio, been seeing them on TV, and this is not new. Right, during the primary season, Democrats run far to the left to out-left their primary opponents. Republicans run as far right as they can to outright their primary opponents. And then the general election comes and everyone kind of moves a little bit more toward the center. We saw that with Governor Kemp when he was Secretary of State running for governor. He had that crazy ad where he's on the porch with a gun and the kid that was dating his daughter, and people are like, oh my God. And then he got the nomination and he moved. I mean, it's just, that's the MO of politicians left and right. You go extreme during the primaries and then you come back more towards the middle during the general. But some of the ads I'm hearing, like on the Republican side for governor, we'll say, like there's some stuff. What's the line, Deborah? I don't care if you're Mongolian or I don't know,
yeah.
like
Muslim or Mongolian.
Like Rick Jackson he's going pretty far out there. And if I were advising the Jackson campaign, I'd be like, I understand what you're doing, but the suburban male voters, the suburban female voters, the kind of on the fence centrist voters, are they going to be turned off? Are they going to be able to forget, some of the rhetoric in these primary ads when it comes to the general election?
Yeah, look, it's a tale as old as time, right? Each wing of the party, you kind of go to your core base in the primary and then try to do that dance coming back to the middle. I think that the Republican, whether it's Rick Jackson or Burt Jones, will be able to do that. I think you will see that likely from the Democrat side. I think a couple things. One, if the nominee is Rick Jackson, he will have unlimited resources to be able to tell that story and be able to work back to the middle and to paint a picture of him as a general election candidate. I think the other thing that will be interesting to watch is what is the dynamic at the top of the ticket? What is the president's favorability? Mm-hmm. Where is he? Those things also, those more geopolitical ramifications end up having a lot to do with how qualified and how strong the general election candidate is.
Yeah, and the news cycle changes hourly. So, I mean, we got a long time till November to see where we are as a country in November. So a lot can obviously change between now and then.
That's right. And I think one other instance of that you're pointing out, Mark, is that race in the Republican primary is very heated. Rick Jackson is having to run against Burt Jones, who has been endorsed by Donald Trump. And so he's having to do those types of things to curry favor with the base because he does not have that Trump endorsement. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and what kind of dividends that plays.
Yeah, you're going to be a busy man, my friend. A busy man.
Always.
Dentons.com, DENTONS.com. And is it 10 days from opening day, baseball?
Love it. Go Braves.